Welcome back to the lecture series of C programming. In today's class, we will be learning about two-dimensional array. We have already learned that an array is a group of related data items that share a common name. And we also know that an array is a data structure or derived data type containing a number of data items of same type. We have already learned about one-dimensional array, its declaration and initialization. This is an example of one-dimensional array of integers. We know that in case of one-dimensional array, the array has only one dimension, either length or breadth. So basically, we can visualize an 1D array as a list of values where it will have only one row and multiple columns, or it will have one column and multiple rows. So that's about 1D array. In today's class, we will be learning about 2D array. So 2D means two dimensions. That means it will have length as well as breadth. So that means we can visualize an 2D array as multiple rows and multiple columns. That means we can visualize as a table of data or table of values. So this is an example of 2D array where we can see we have multiple rows or 4 rows and multiple columns or 6 columns. And here also we have taken an array of integers. So the dimensions of this 2D array we can say like 4 rows and 6 columns, or 4 by 6 or 4 cross 6. The way we have learned the concept of matrix in mathematics, the same logic goes for 2D array in case of C programming. Now let's learn how to declare a 2D array. So we have already seen in case of 1D array that when we need to declare, then first we specify the type of the data that particular array will be storing. Then separated by at least one space, we mention the array name or variable name. Then without any space, within third brackets, we mention the size of that array, and that was for 1D array. In case of 2D array also, the concept is same. We first specify or mention the type of that array. Then we mention the array name or variable name. And here, since we have two dimensions, length as well as breadth, in the form of multiple rows and multiple columns, we store the elements of 2D arrays. So here we need to specify two index values. One is for row index or row size, and the other one is for column index or column size. And every index value here also we will be specifying within third brackets, and between two index values there will be no space or no gap, and the whole statement will be terminated by semicolons. So there is no much difference in declaring 1D and 2D array. In case of 1D array we have one index value, and in case of 2D array we have two indices or two index values. Here we have taken an example of a 2D array where we can see we have 3 rows and 4 columns. That means 3 multiplied by 4. So we have in total 12 elements in that array, and this is an array of integers. So the corresponding declaration will be int, the data type, then table is the variable name or array name. Then within first set of third brackets we mention the row size, which is 3 here. Then within the second set of brackets we mention here the column size, which is 4. Now in a program, whenever we are using an array, be it 1D or 2D, we need to access the elements of that array. So we must learn that how to access every element of a particular 2D array. Now this is the same array that we have seen just now, and below every element or every value we have mentioned something in green. And what is that? That is basically the index value. So within two sets of brackets we can say there are some values that are written. So if we focus on the first element, here we can see the index values are 0 0. And why it is? Because we know the index value starts from 0, and the first element of this 2D array whose value is 4, this basically belongs to first row and first column. Index value for the first row will be 0, and index value of the first column will be also 0. Now let's move to the next element. And this element or second element of this 2D array still belongs to first row and second column. So if we focus on the index value, then the index value for row will be 0 and the column will be 1. Then for the third element of that array, the index value for row will be still 0 and index value for column will be 2. and for the next element of the first row, the index value of the row will be 0 and the index value of the column will be 3. Now once all the elements of a particular row or of the first row here have been accessed, then we will move to the next row, or index value wise that will be row 1, and again the column values will be iterated from 0 to 3. So here the columns value will be 0, then 1, 2, 3, and in place of row value, instead of 0 that we have seen in the previous row, this time it will be 1. Now for the next row, the row index value will be 2 and the column index value again will be iterated from 0 to 3. So this is how we access all the elements of a two-dimensional array. Now once we have declared a two-dimensional array, we know that sometimes we need to initialize the elements of that particular array. And for that, in case of 1D array, we have seen many methods of initialization. In case of 2D array also, we will be learning multiple methods of initialization. We have taken the same 2D array for initialization, and this is the first method, which is the simplest method but not much efficient method of initialization. Here what we are doing, we are declaring that 2D array, so we are specifying the data type, then the array name or variable name, and we are also mentioning the row size and column size, and then within curly braces, the way we have seen for 1D array, we are mentioning all the elements value one after another separated by comma. Now by looking at the values of this type of initialization, we cannot easily say that what are the elements which belongs to the first row or what are the elements which belongs to the third row. Now we have another method where we specify all the elements row wise. Here you can see that within opening and closing brace, all the elements of a particular row are also enclosed within again one set of opening and closing braces, and those sets of opening and closing braces, they are also separated by comma from each other, and within each set all the elements of a particular row, those values are also separated by comma from each other. And this is another way where all the elements have been grouped row wise and also has been represented in the form of matrix. So in this method of initialization, by looking at the values, we can easily say that a particular element of that 2D array belongs to which row and which column. Now we have another method of initialization where we use the concept of loops, and that we have seen in case of 1D array also. So in case of 1D array, we used only one loop, and there we used only for loop. So in case of 2D array, instead of using one for loop, since here we have two dimensions, so we need to use two for loops or nested for loop. So again the same table of elements or same 2D array we have used, so same type of declaration. And since the first index value, as I said, that represents the row index, the maximum size of the row, so first we fix the row and then we iterate or change the column values from initial value to the final value. So here the outer for loop will be used for row and the inner for loop will be used for column. So first we fix the first row, and index wise that value is 0. That's why the value of I, the initial value of I is 0, and when that value is set, then the control of the program will come to the inner loop, and then the value of j will be set as 0, because we know the initial value of column index is also 0. So that means I is equal to 0 and j is equal to also 0. So that signifies, or that points to the first element of that 2D array. So that means when we will enter a value from the terminal, then that value will be stored as first element of that 2D array. Now when that is done, then the loop will be iterated. So j value will be incremented by 1. Now the j value will be changed from 0 to 1. So I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 1. That means the second position, 0, 1 position, or the second element of that 2D array. So whatever value now we will be entering from the terminal, that will be stored in this place. I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 1. So that will be stored as second element of that array. And then again the loop will be iterated. J will be changed from 1 to 2 now. So I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 2. This way it will be continued. So now next will be I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 3, and when that value will be entered and it will be stored in that array, then j will be again incremented by 1. So this time the value of j will be 4. and here the condition of termination of this inner loop is j should be less than 4. Now j has become 4, so it will, this inner loop will be terminated and the control of the program will go to the outer loop. So this time the value of I will be incremented by 1, so value of I will be from 0 to, now the new value will be 1. So the control will come here, and now again the inner loop will be iterated from j is equal to 0 to j is equal to 3. So all the elements that we will be entering from the terminal, they will be stored in the second row one by one. And then when that is done, again the control of the program will go to the outer loop. I value will be now this time 2, and then again the value of j will be changed from 0 to 3. So all the elements that we will be entering from the terminal, they will be stored in the third row one by one, and then again the control of the program will come here. The I value now this time will be 3. Since the condition of termination of this outer loop is set as I is equal to 3, so when I will become 3, then the outer loop will be terminated and the control of the program will go to the place after that loop. So this way we can initialize all the elements of a 2D array by using the concept of loop, and this is the most efficient method of initialization. Now suppose in the program we have a 2D array where that array has been initialized, or maybe all the elements have some values in that array, and we want to display the value of each element of that 2D array. Then how we can do? Again we have to use a nested for loop, and in place of scanf, this time we will be using the printf function. So this is the brief idea of two-dimensional array, its declaration and initialization. In the next class, we will be learning something new. Till then, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.